Hey, it's me, Egbert. E-G-G-B-U-R-T. Check out my website at egbert.com. Now it's back to those two dudes who told me they would bring in big ratings. They better are their history. Here are Brad and John.
I don't care if he's pooped his pants.
See, Whoopi doesn't care if you pooped in your pants, John. Aren't you happy about that?
Thank God. And what's her real name? You told us before.
It's like Carol Douglas or something like that. It's really sort of here. Let me look it up. It's to the point where it's like guys in the radio business whose names are like Arnold Farnsworthy, they become Jim Davis or something like that. She goes the other way around, to the point where she has a very normal. Here, let me look it up. I think it is Carol Davis, if I'm not mistaken. It's very plain vanilla. W-H-O-O-P-I. Whoopi. There she is, right there. Her real name is, no, I'm wrong. It's Caryn Elaine Johnson. Once again.
Oh, that's pretty generic.
Yeah, Caryn Elaine Johnson.
What a Karen.
Yeah, she's a Karen. But it's spelled, she doesn't spell it K-A-R-E-N. She spells it C-A-R-Y-N. Okay. Lots of things to talk about. First off, ladies, keep those comments coming. Here's the first one. John Combest, he tells it like it is. I'm an attractive woman.
And did you get... Jokes aside, did you meet a lot of good people at the Dardenne Prairie event?
Oh yeah. Dardenne Prairie is a cool place. Matter of fact, what it was is they have this every year. It's called Prairie Days, and the interesting part of this is some people go like, Prairie. Well, I kid about this all the time, and I don't necessarily kid because, quite honestly, there's a part of me that ticks me off. These people that get away with, these companies get away with. Matter of fact, your old company did it, and Alberisi Construction Company does. They put up a sign and they say, Prairie restoration in progress, so they don't have to cut their damn grass. But yet, if you or I put up a sign in our front yard and say, Prairie restoration in progress, we'd be cited by the city. I'm sorry, your grass has exceeded 8 inches, which is the maximum allowed in the city of insert city name here. But your place right there, and what do you call that, North Campus on Olive, that building on the north side of Olive?
Yeah, that was formerly Campus, yeah.
And remember they put, which I always thought was funny, here's the company that does Roundup, and yet they let the weeds grow. You know what I mean? I mean, like... Because
don't you want to feed the bees, Brad? I mean, you're the one that lets your grass grow to be 8 inches tall.
I do not.
Like, I don't know why you're criticizing people for letting grass grow.
4 to 5 inches is matter of fact, this time of the year, don't be cutting your grass real short. You need, matter of fact, when you cut it for the last time, you shouldn't cut any lower than about 4 inches. But that's just me. But what do I know? And the answer to that question is not much. Okay, it was a good time at Dardenne Prairie. A lot of good people there. We were set up there. We were one of the vendors in the vendor area, and then they had a concert. And the sad thing about it was, I think attendance was not as good as it could have been because the forecast was, on Friday the forecast was for rain on Saturday. It never rained one inch, and I think everybody was still freaked out about.
You're right.
Oh my God! It's the remnants of the hurricane. Oh, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be windy and cold and rainy. And it was a very nice day, but that's neither here nor there.
What they should have done is, Brad, I went to the website and I looked for vendors because I wanted to see if you were a vendor, and they didn't have you listed there.
Well, that's because we're special.
Did you fill the stuff out like super late or something?
No, I don't know why they didn't have his vendor, but we were in the vendor area. I mean, we were across the way from one of our big advertisers, Kathy Kilo Peterson, who's buys tons of. Hold on a minute. I used to have my insurance with her. I spent thousands of dollars with her. She never spent a penny with me. Oh, that's right, Kathy Kilo Peterson. Okay, did I just say that on the air? I'm sorry.
You did. Now, if people want to hear a replay of the live cast that you did there, of the live broadcast, where can they hear that?
Well, you can't. It's gone. It's in the it's in the ether. Never be heard again. And matter of fact, once again, I get a text from, I won't say who, but because Shelley goes on the air and says, this is Shelley Unfiltered. This is the first time her and I have been on the air, like, I don't know, a year and a half or something like that. And she talks about the weather is so nice that the women, you ladies, come on out. You won't have any boob sweat. Okay. And I'm going like, okay, thanks, Shelley. Appreciate that. Okay. But there are certain men that have to worry about that, but we won't get into that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the average man tooling around St. Charles County is going to have a little under pectoral sweat. Wouldn't you say, Brad?
not going to say that, John. I'm not going there. Okay. All sorts of crazy articles in the weekend news, and I'm reading all this stuff. The one that got me, see, I don't understand this crazy kind of stuff. There's a classic quote from Michael Jordan. And the classic quote is, even though Michael Jordan is, everybody knows he's a liberal Democrat, and someone said something to the effect that why don't you tell your political viewpoints more? And his classic quote was, this was like 25 years ago, he says, Republicans buy sneakers too. The idea being is that why would you want to tick off, and right now the way the polls are, if you say something bad about Kamala Harris, you've ticked off half the people in the country. If you say something about Donald Trump, you've ticked off half the people in the country, because the polls show it's like pretty much of a dead heat, okay? The restaurant that Kamala Harris, we had this story. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. I've seen it, yeah.
Okay. The restaurant we had featured, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, about the guy who's sitting there on a Saturday afternoon, and he's sitting, he might have been at the bar or something like that. He's there to have a burger, and he wants to watch football on TV, and they do last call at 3:30. And he's going, last call at 3:30. Why 3:30? We have a private party. So they cleared the place out, and then there's people that took pictures of this. A couple of big like charter buses pull up across the street, and a bunch of people get out, and essentially it's a campaign event for Kamala Harris, but it's made to look like, oh, she just showed up at the restaurant and she's glad handing the customers. Well, the customers were all plants. They were all her friends, or they were rent-a-citizens or stuff like that, okay? So over the weekend, J.D. Vance goes to the same restaurant in Pittsburgh. What's it called? Pamelori's or something like this? Isn't that what's
Primante Brothers?
What's it called again?
It's called Primante Brothers.
Primante Brothers. He goes to the same restaurant and he's kicked out. Now, once again, you sort of scratch your head over this, going like, okay, I bet you there's a lot of Republicans in Pittsburgh who are going like, never going to eat there again. You know what I'm saying?
I do, yeah, and the restaurant issued a statement. I'm sure you've seen that as well.
Yeah, they said it was overzealous manager or something like that. I mean, I don't understand this. I mean, it gets to the point where so many things now, like if your next door neighbor, if you're Republican, your next door neighbor's Democrat, you want to move because you can't stand, living next to a Democrat. And if you're a woman and you're on a dating site, you put on your dating profile, if you vote for Trump, swipe left. Once again, I will say, vive la différence, to the point where I have lots of friends who are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats, and we don't have fist fights. You know what I mean? To me, it's to the point where it's like,
oh yeah. And I don't think it's just generational either. I think that a lot of people would maybe want to stereotype this as being, well, young people today can't handle. I don't think that's what it is. I think there are people in their 60s who are unreasonable about it. I think there's people in their 20s that are unreasonable about it.
I agree.
Or what I would consider to be unreasonable.
I agree 100%. And I think the interesting thing is that if you have somebody that, maybe in your family or something like that, they talk about, here, we're not that far away from Thanksgiving, and they talk about how uncomfortable some Thanksgiving dinners are, where the family gathers around and half the family's Republican and half the family's Democrat, or 2/3 of the family is Democrat, and there's a couple lone wolf Republicans that, that they're shouting matches and there's punching and stuff like that. I don't get it. I mean, to me, maybe it's because I've learned something very important about my personality. I have to stay challenged all the time. I can't get bored. I just can't get bored. And that's why, John makes fun of me, my ADHD, my ADD, whatever it is. That's why on 2 successive nights, I guess 10 or 15 years ago, one night I got my HVAC certification, and the second night I became a reverend. Okay, 2 nights in a row.
Yeah.
I get certified as an HVAC tech, and I get certified as a pastor. And I just and I'm one of these guys, I love learning new stuff. I mean, if someone says to me the old comment about you're a jack of all trades, a master of none, that's me. I have conversations. I told somebody recently, they talked to me about, I'm cutting some trees down in my backyard. Do you have any chainsaws? I have 5. And they went, 5 chainsaws? What do you do with 5 chainsaws? chainsaws are like golf clubs, okay? If you're into cutting trees, you know there's one chainsaw that does this, there's another chainsaw that does that, use this chainsaw to do this. You know, it's different tools. I mean, you go to get your car fixed, the guy doesn't come out with a pair of vice grips and a screwdriver and fixes your car. Not anymore. He needs all sorts of specialty tools. The idea being is there's all sorts of things that make the world go round, and I'm fascinated by a bunch of them, you know? I mean, I go down rabbit holes and things like that. I mean, you know, to the point where I had a discussion recently with somebody about the whole crazy thing, which hasn't gotten much play, about the air conditioning thing, that as of January 1st, you will no longer be able to install new R410A systems, which is the current refrigeration system. And the reason I'm surprised at that is because I'm surprised the HVAC guys aren't on the radio every 2 minutes going like, you know, you may not realize it, but as of January 1st, your air conditioning system will be illegal. Well, not illegal, but, you know, there's two new refrigerants. You know, and once again, it's mandated by the government. Now, can I tell you something which there's two things that are interesting here that I want to pull out here, okay? John is into call and response. You've mentioned this several times about various rallies and things like that. You like the call and response things, right?
I don't think so, but what's a good example of that?
Well, no. You've mentioned this before. You know, there's call and response. Okay, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like when the guy on the podium goes, "And what do you think about that?" You know, and the audience go,
"Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, I hate that, and I think it's really annoying." But go ahead.
Okay. Did you see this over the weekend? The headline is RFK Jr. mocks Kamala Harris' favorite phrase with audience call and response at Michigan rally.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. He spoke at the Falk Productions manufacturing facility in Walker, Michigan. It's actually on Friday, participating in a campaign event hosted by Republican presidential nominee, former President Donald Trump. During the rally, Kennedy mocked Vice President Kamala Harris for her frequent references to having been born in middle class when asked to respond to a difficult question. So he starts, this is funny. He says, this is RFK Jr. All you have to know is 7 words, and you never have to admit to doing anything wrong again, Kennedy said. And then he instructed the rallygoers to repeat after him in a series of back and forths. He says, the next time your boss asks you, why were you late for work? What are you going to say? And the audience comes back and says, I was born in the middle class. The audience responded.
That's
and then he says, and the next time your wife asks you why you don't take out the garbage, what are you going to say? And the audience says, I was born in the middle class. He says, that's all you have to know, and you don't have to answer any questions. I mean, isn't that funny? I mean...
but it's true. But now, at the same time, every time you repeat it, you do underscore to everyone that Kamala was born in the middle class, which is, an admirable thing for a lot of voters.
But you know what? She really wasn't. Because of the fact that her parents were both professors, okay? Most professors nowadays, I don't think you would consider them to be middle class, because most professors are making 6 figures. You know, I mean, there was a time...
6 figures is middle class, Brad.
Yeah, no, not John. Hold on here. Hold on a minute. There was a time when, maybe this is ancient times, but there was a time if you made over $150,000 a year, you were in the top 2% of the wage earners in the United States.
I believe that. Okay. Yeah, and as time changes, we have inflation, and so those numbers they're not what they were in 1986, let's say.
Okay, let's go top 5%. Top 5%.
We're going to see how many times we can Google on today's show, Brad. We'll take people along for a Google ride.
Top 5% of income. Okay, let's see what that comes up with. Okay, top for 5% of income. Here we go. United States, the income threshold to be in the top 5% of earners is around $290,000. Okay, now, once again, if you listen to Dave Ramsey, and you listen to his show, which I do, and they pushed it further back. It used to be long, I think on 8 o'clock on The Patriot. They pushed it back later. But if you know the whole deal, and Dave doesn't do the show by himself all the time. He's got a bunch of people. The Ramsey, what is he called? The Ramsey personalities or whatever. And they have these people calling all the time. Oh, Dave, my wife and I were just scrimping along and we're not doing very well. And Dave would say, okay, well, let's do some numbers. What do you make? Well, I make $170,000 and my wife makes $140,000 and we're just having a tough time making ends meet. So you've got a combined income of $310,000. Yes, we can barely afford to have Hulu and Netflix. It's just terrible. Well, once again, where do these people come from that are making six figures? And once again, if you take the combined income, they're in the top 5%. Okay, what's the top 2%?
Well, while you Google that, let's also point out, Brad, that a lot of people don't have any fiscal discipline, and a lot of people are convinced that they need to live in a bigger house and a better, fancier neighborhood.
So, excuse me, I was drinking my Mountain Dew. So you're saying that it's the classic example of millionaire next door, that if you live in a modest neighborhood, the guy next to you who's living in a 1,000 square foot home and driving a 15-year-old F-150, he's the millionaire?
Well, not necessarily, but maybe. But also just the idea of you have two parents, let's say, that they have mid-level jobs at a company. They're making $150,000. Their combined household income then would be $300K if they're a couple. And a lot of those people are in debt because they're just spending on exotic vacations and they're going to resorts and they don't save money, they don't invest money, and they just fritter money away. So it's possible to make that much money, Brad, and fritter it away. People do that all the time. Okay,
I've just Googled a national average college salary for college professors is $67,000 per year. Okay. Originally, all of these jobs are paid. Now, importantly, all of these jobs are paid between more than the average college professor's salary. Now, this one says $53,000. So what are you going to believe? You can't believe everything. How much does a PhD?
Well, we get the point.
A PhD professor. Oh, no, here we go. Okay, as of 2024, the average salary for full professors is $115,000 to $130,000 per year, with some earning well above this in fields like law. Okay, once again, Kamala Harris's mother and father are both professors, so they weren't working at Walgreens making minimum wage plus 30 cents an hour if they worked the night shift. They were doing well for themselves. And she makes it out that, we had a terrible time. We had to kill the mice to eat dinner, and it was so tough. And once again, did you see? I didn't see it, but Saturday Night Live. Did you see the 50th anniversary, the opening night?
I did not. No,
Saturday night. They're bringing back all these stars who are going to, like Dana Carvey's back, and they have, I can't remember who was playing Kamala Harris's husband, but and this will make sense, which we talked about this recently. He refers to himself as the second gentle Mensch. Not gentle.
Oh, wow. What a gimmick.
Right, not gentleman, but gentle Mensch. And once again, we talked about that last week, because when we do the Jimmy Carr thing, where's the Jimmy Carr thing? I got to find the Jimmy Carr thing real quick. Where is it? Here is this. Here, is it this one? Hold on a minute. Let me just play this one. Is this it?
Well, people talk about toxic masculinity, and easy fix. Be a gentleman, be a mensch. That's it. This is done. Be a gentleman, be a mensch. A gentleman is never rude by accident.
And a mensch is a Yiddish term for someone who is not a good person, but a good man who is kind and understanding, and the kind of guy that if you fall down on the street, and by the way, next break we'll talk about Brad dials 911 again yesterday and got thanked again, but as opposed to John, if you're laying on the sidewalk bleeding, John would walk by and go, oh, somebody else call 911, right, John?
That's exactly right, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's C-O-M-B-E-S-T, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?